see all of you again, although I look forward to when we can all be in the same room in the future. The meeting for the time being will be a little different, obviously, so please bear with me, bear with all of us as we navigate through this new norm. So at this time, I call the May 19th, 2020 Design Review Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order and call the roll. Commissioner Burt. Commissioner Burt's muted, I think.
I'm trying.
Okay.
Hold on, just a moment.
And
Commissioner Burt. You'll have, there you go.
Here.
Great. Commissioner Vice Chair Cormany.
You'll have to unmute yourself.
Present.
I think Commissioner Randolph.
You'll have to unmute yourself.
I'm here, thank you.
Commissioner Tipple.
Okay,
Can you
yeah.
There we go.
Present.
And Commissioner Marr.
Can you unmute your?
Here.
Great. And Chair present. Moving on, I'd like to get the approval for tonight's agenda. Do any commissioners wish to make any changes to this evening's agenda order? No? Okay, seeing none wanting to make any changes, would a commissioner like to make a motion to approve the agenda and followed by a second? I think everybody's muted again.
I make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
Great. Second? Anyone?
Second.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
let me do a roll call vote here for that.
Oh.
Commissioner Burt. We need to do roll call votes for each item now. So I'm calling for Commissioner Burt.
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany. Can you unmute yourself?
There we go. Agreed.
Commissioner Randolph.
Aye.
Commissioner Tipple. Can you unmute yourself?
There. There. Yes.
And Chair Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Terrific. Okay, at this time, I usually ask for comments from the public on any matters that are not on tonight's agenda. For items on tonight's agenda, you'll be given the opportunity to comment when the item comes up for discussion. But please remember to keep your comments to 3 minutes and under when you do. But given that our new meeting format is what it is, I'd like to go over the new process for public comments during our virtual meeting. I will read this statement, so bear with me. In order to minimize the spread of COVID-19 virus, the City of Sonoma is providing multiple alternatives to viewing Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission meetings and providing comments on items on the agenda. These alternatives allow the city to adhere to social distancing requirements, follow the governor's executive order N-2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act, and provide numerous ways for the public to provide public comment during the live meeting. So if you're viewing the meeting online, you can go to the live stream, which is on the city's civic portal, sonomacity.civicweb.net, or you can view on the YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/UCHZJURG2RNLYXTGQHHFY-TG. submitting comments by email if you choose to do that. And you can submit those via email to the public comment at sonomacity.org at any time. Prior to the meeting as public correspondence for the city's standard practice, any comments received prior to the commencement of the meeting will be uploaded to the public correspondence folder on the city's civic web portal. And that's at sonomacity.civicweb.net/filepro/documents25498. And available for review for the public and the city council and the commission. It will not be read during the meeting. During the meeting, however, as a public comment, if you wish to make one, your comments can be read into the record. Please submit an email to publiccomments@sonomacity.org after the chair calls the meeting to order and prior to the close of the public comment on that item on the agenda. Virtual participation by Zoom video conferencing. The City of Sonoma is now offering the ability to view and participate in the DRHPC meeting via video meetings and telephonic conferencing via Zoom video conferencing computer technology. Instructions for participating via Zoom are provided below. How do you join? Please visit Zoom, visit zoom.us/j/948-393-85586 and either sign up for a free Zoom account or continue as a guest. Once you've downloaded the app on your smartphone, or joined from your browser or downloaded the Zoom software on your computer, you will be ready for the DR HPC meeting. If you have previously signed up for Zoom, you can enter the following meeting ID to join: 948-3938-558. Okay, that is that. So moving on now to the consent calendar.
So just one moment. We do have comments from the public as item number 1 on the agenda.
Okay.
Chair Johnson, and I'd just like to let you know that there has been no written correspondence received, and in the attendees, I don't see anyone's hand up. So then now we can move on to the consent calendar.
Great. Okay, so all of the items on the consent calendar will be acted upon in one single motion. There'll be no separate discussions of these items unless members of the commission, staff, or public request specific items to be removed for separate action. So we've got item 2.1, which is the approval of the draft minutes submitted by the staff. And thankfully, with all the extra time we've had, it looks like they've caught up on all the minutes. And then there's also the extension of the permit for Sonoma Burrito Company and their extension of a proposed building elevation details, exterior color and materials, and outdoor lighting for a restaurant, the Sonoma Burrito Company at 921 Broadway, which is something that we've already approved, but they weren't able to get to in time. So having said that, would anyone like to, anybody have any comments, or would anybody like to make a motion that we approve both consent calendar items and move forward?
Through the chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve both the consent items.
Great. Is there a second? Second, Kalia.
I second.
Oh, okay.
So, right. Let me do if there's any after we ask for comments, let me do a roll call vote again.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public on, or the commission on this item? Okay.
So I can do a roll call vote, and I'll start with Commissioner Randolph. I have you unmuted on the screen. So if you unmute yourself, there you go. We can hear you now.
Okay, so Wendy, just a comment. It looks like we can only unmute ourselves if you do it. So it's adding an extra step in there. I'm not able to unmute myself independently, just so you know that if you're.
Yes, yeah,
wanting
I
to
think
show
you
the-
are. Everyone else is unmuted.
If
So
All right.
I'm sorry. We'll figure this out.
If you put your cursor up in the upper corner of the box of your screen, you'll see 3 little dots. And if you press on that, it'll give you some options.
It's delayed. Now you're
So now
unmuted.
It's telling, okay, all right. Every time I unmute myself, I'm getting a message that you are the one controlling the mute. So I'm literally on Zoom all day long, every day. So I'm I'm a learning curve issue here. But anyway, I'm speaking now. And so, yes, I'm okay with approving the consent calendar.
Thank you. Commissioner Burt,
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany,
He's muted.
You can see. Yeah.
you can't unmute yourself?
Oh,
There.
Now
I
I
can hear
can.
you now.
Okay. Sorry. I agree.
I think I'm down to Chair Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And I just wanted to let you know that we did have a similar issue with the muting at the Planning Commission, and we'll just be patient and we'll work it out.
Okay. All right. So we'll move down to item 3.1. And it's regarding a sign permit for the Verizon store at 294 West Napa. Staff, can we have the report?
I'm trying
There we
now.
go. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. And my apologies to the applicant who got stuck in this COVID crisis. This probably should have been before you a month or 2 ago. So thank you for being patient. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. So this is a sign permit for the Verizon store at 294 West Napa Street. There's a little location map. Oops. Sorry, we can't use our presentation mode because then we can't see what's on the screen. Now here's the location. So the project proposes to replace the existing illuminated Verizon signage with new branding. So it's very similar locations and sizes. The new signage would be on the southern and western walls of the existing building. The new signage is 9.83 square feet for each of the 2 signs, with a total aggregate signage of 19.66 feet. The signage would be illuminated with LED modules and would be illuminated from dusk until closing of the store at 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 6 p.m. on Sunday. Here's an existing and proposed. So it's really just really slight changes with the Z and the check. And here's the specifics of the sign. So the applicable standards include the illuminated signs, which limit maximum size to 32 square feet. The project would comply with that. And it doesn't exceed the maximum area. And as conditioned, the hours of illumination would be limited to 1 hour prior to opening and 1 hour after closing. The aggregate signage has a max for the project site is 64.4 square feet, and the project would be well below that. Also, the maximum sign area is 48 square feet, also well below that. And there are no monuments proposed. There's 2 signs, but on different sides of the building and street. So it's in compliance with the number of signs as well. On the screen are the sign findings of approval. And with that, are there any questions? Thank
Okay.
you.
Seeing no questions, is the applicant available? If so, raise your hand and the staff will bring you into the meeting.
Christina, do you know the applicant, if the applicant is on the line?
I can't tell without getting out of my presentation.
Oh, okay. Do you happen to have his name handy?
Jason.
Jason. I don't see anyone named Jason on the as an attendee, so I would say the applicant is not present.
Okay. Then, are there any comments from the public on this agenda item?
Let me check the email. No written comment.
Okay.
And I'm just checking to see if anyone is raising their hand. And I see no public comment.
Okay, great. Well, since there's no comments, we'll close the public discussion and come back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Burt?
Thank you. This is pretty straightforward. It's meeting all the criteria, and I see no problem with it. So I'm fine with the application.
Thank you. Vice Chair Cormany?
I thought that was an improvement. I like what they're doing. It looks a little more contemporary. Very nice.
Thank you. Commissioner Randolph?
Just give it, there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I have no problems with the application. I'm sure this is brand lift to go along with the rest of their look and feel, and I have no problem with the new look.
Great. Commissioner Tipple?
I concur with my fellow commissioners, and I think it's pretty straightforward application. I think it's a lot cleaner, and I like the design.
Great, thank you. And I agree as well. I think it's an improvement from the old sign, so I have no problems with that either. Any other comments from the commission? And if not, would someone like to make a motion to approve this agenda item?
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion that we approve this application as submitted.
Is there a second?
I will go ahead and second.
Terrific. Okay, Wendy, roll call vote?
Sure, are there any other comments first? All right, Commissioner Burt,
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany, I think that was yes. There you
Yes.
go. Commissioner Randolph? All right. Commissioner Tipple?
Aye.
Chair Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Great. Okay, the next item on the agenda, 3.2, is discussion and possible action to approve a sign permit application for a new awning with signage located at 480 First Street East, Xena Lounge, Ledson Hotel. Do we have the report, staff?
I unmuted you. You should be able to speak.
There we go. All right. All right, thank you. So this is the project at 481st Street East for the Xena Lounge at the Ledson Hotel. This is located on the east side of the Sonoma Plaza on the southeast corner. The project includes replacement of the retractable awning that was previously approved for the hotel. The reason is for the venue name changed to the Xena Lounge, and the old awning required replacement. The new awning is approximately the same size as the one that was there previously and spans the front of the building, approximately 9 feet above the public sidewalk. The new awning would be a Soltis Gore Tenera mesh fabric in cream, and it is installed on the existing metal canopy. Now, the signed copy includes the words tasting room on the left, Xena Lounge, and a logo in the middle, and hotel on the right. The letters are approximately 10 inches tall and a ½ inch thick. Here's when the awning is rolled up, and this is with the awning rolled down. We have 2 different sets of standards for this project. We have the awning review, and that requires that it be over 7 feet away from the sidewalk, and also that there's a clearance from the front of the building. The applicable standards include aggregate sign area and size limitations, as well as the number of signs. There were several sign variances approved for this structure over the last few years. So the existing awning is really just replacing existing copy. It's not increasing the number overall, but those variances were approved in the past in 2002 and 2011. Before the commission is the design review, the sign permit findings of approval for consideration. Are there any questions?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do have a question. I was wondering, Christina, has this awning already been installed?
Correct.
Okay, so we're approving it after the fact?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Is this, I just have a question because I don't recall ever seeing the sign so bright like that in the past. And then I remember one day going down the street and it seemed like that awning was very, very low. Are we assured that that is not going to go lower than what the standard is?
Well, we can issue additional conditions of approval if the commission feels that it should be higher, if there should be additional clearance. My understanding is it's operated on a remote control, so that seems like something that would be able to be controllable by the proprietors.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, is the applicant available?
Yeah, and Christina, is that Joe Walsh?
No. It is Scott, and let's see if he's on.
I don't see anyone named Scott.
No, I don't see anyone.
Okay.
Okay. The applicant is not present.
All right. Are there any comments from the public on this item?
There are no written comments, and none of the attendees have raised their hand to comment.
There is a question from Raul Pena, but I'm not sure what item he wants to
Oh,
comment on.
He's for the project on Sonoma Highway.
Okay.
Storage, okay. Okay, all right, seeing that there are no comments from the public, we'll close the public hearing and come back to the commission. And Commissioner Burt.
I do have a question in regards to Commissioner Johnson about adding a condition on that as far as some type of wording in regards to that. Other than that, I think the sign is beautiful. It identifies what it is. I like it better than the burgundy one that they had, and I see that they have a nicer material on that. But I would like to put in some wording that Commissioner Johnson had recommended regarding how low the awning goes.
Okay, Vice Chair Cormany?
When I saw this at first, I couldn't remember there being an awning there. My first impression, in seeing the black and white images that are presented in the printed materials, it was really very abrupt and bright. But then the color rendering, and Christina has helped reduce that a little bit. And then I do recall that there was the burgundy one there originally. And also there was some description of the clearances required from the sidewalk back and clearance to the street and above in the ordinance. So as long as it complies with the ordinance, I think we're okay. So that's my take on it.
If I may, through the chair, Scott Edinger sent a message that he's trying to get on, but he was having some challenges.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I found it in the writing. If you see it, that the awning must be at least 7 feet above any public walkway. There's a building code 3206.4. So I think the height, as long as they comply, would be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Tipple?
I like it. I think it's a nice fresh look and change from the red awning, which obviously, you know, red's a bold color, but I think this looks very fresh. So I like it.
Thank you. Commissioner Randolph?
I defer to our color expert, Commissioner Tipple. Personally, it looks very bright to me in the images that we've seen, and it's always a little bit of a challenge to commission when we're approving a project after the fact. It's never that fun to do that. But I do defer to my colleagues here. And yes, I would agree with Commissioner Burt that we ensure that the depth of the sign is within the required limits.
Okay. I'm not a big fan. I think that it stands out a little much. I don't think I even noticed the old awning as much as I noticed this one now. But again, as Commissioner Randolph stated, I'll defer on the color to our color expert. My main concern is how low that they let that go. I think it operates. They do operate it sometimes to, well, basically to keep the sun off of people, and they can take that down quite a bit.
Right.
I passed by one morning and it was, you know, way low and a hazard in my mind. So for me, and again, I also agree with Commissioner Randolph. I don't like doing these things after the fact, but for me at this point, I would want to be assured that, you know, they follow the letter of the code and make sure that that is not taken down farther than what's allowed. And I'll leave it at that. So if there are no other comments, Wendy, if you want to start the roll call vote.
Sure. Commissioner Burt.
I don't think anybody's made a motion yet to approve it.
Sorry, you're right. Is there a
point.
motion to approve?
I mean, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve, subject to the findings and fact, but then I wanted to add a caveat to the conditions in regards to on how low, or to ensure that it'll comply with the code as far as how low. I don't know what the code would be. As
So
far as how
it's
low-
listed in the standards. The code is, the awning should be at least 7 feet above any public walkway is the code.
Okay, and that's,
I think we should work that into the
yeah,
motion.
just more or less emphasizing that code on the conditions of approval. That it's kind of redundant if it's already there. Right?
Yeah, no, I can see where this is going to go, down the road, but yeah. Okay, is there a second?
Could you restate the motion, please?
Then go ahead and make a motion to approve the design review and the permit application for the new awning, subject to the conditions and findings enclosed.
I second.
Okay, we have a second.
Any further discussion? I'll do the roll call vote. Commissioner Burt,
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany,
Aye.
Commissioner Randolph,
Aye, with reservations.
Commissioner Tipple,
Aye.
Chair Johnson.
Yes, with reservations too.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 3.3 on the agenda, which is discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve a sign permit to replace the existing monument sign for the Hotel Lodge located at 1325 Broadway. Staff, could we have the report, please?
Thank you. The next two items are an extension of some of the other design review applications that have been before the commission in the past few months. The lodge is located at 1325 Broadway on the south end of town. And it's a 9.48 acre site and supports the existing 154 room hotel. It's located in the Gateway Commercial District. And this current project includes the signage as discussed, as well as I kind of mushed them together. Is that confusing? So there's new lighting that's proposed, changes to the landscaping at the building entrance, in the south end of the building, cottages along Broadway and Leveroni. It includes the removal of 5 date palms that would be replaced with 10 native coastal oaks. The Poolside Fire Pit that was approved in December, I believe, is back with a revised design for fire safety. There are also pergolas being proposed on the previously approved bathtubs to comply with the sanitary district's requirement that stormwater not drain into the bathtubs. There's proposed paint for the main lodge building and accent painting for the cottage entries. And as I mentioned earlier, the 2 existing monument signs would be replaced, and the wayfinding signage, as well as the entry sign for the lodge. And I know the applicant is on and will make a presentation, but here's the proposed lighting. And as I mentioned, the landscaping, that is not the Poolside Fire Pit. The proposed exterior colors, Iron Mountain for the accent and White Dove for the facade. And for the cottages, Iron Mountain, and the concrete stain would be Devon Brown. Did I pronounce that right? Oops, sorry. Trying to get. There's the kind of tough to see the pergolas on this screen. There's the proposed signage for the wall and the monument sign. This is the entry sign. And this would be the replacement monument sign at the intersection of Leveroni and Broadway. We have both sign findings and design review findings of approval. Sign findings are here. Would you like to address the sign findings and permit first?
Sure.
Are there any questions about the proposed signage?
No.
No?
Right. And then here are the design review findings of approval. And if there are no questions, I believe the applicant would like to make a presentation, Wendy.
Okay, and is that Sarah Clark?
Sarah and Mark Wilson should be on as well.
Oh, yes, I see him. All right. I saw Mark Wilson and I attempted to promote him. There we go. All right.
So I think Sarah was going to lead the presentation on this, but just as an overview, we've been in front of the board a few times with various aspects of the project, updating the lodge in preparation for changing branding to an autograph. And this is the final package of picking up both plan corrections and signage upgrades for the property. So that's really the main goal of this. Sarah, I don't know if you're on yet, if you want to go through the package, but if not, I can go through it.
So Sarah was on and now she, oh,
Christina?
I have unmuted you again, Christina.
So Sarah got demoted back down to an attendee, Wendy.
Okay, I'm looking. Okay.
I think we'd also look to you guys as a lead as to how intense you'd like for us to go through this package. Again, it's picking up a lot of stuff that was based on plan correction and signage updates.
There's Sarah.
Yeah, sorry, I got my Zoom crashed. I had to rejoin. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think, is this the opportunity for them to make a presentation?
Yeah, we can run through our packet. It's very similar to what Christina has just walked through, but it might be helpful if we do the same with some input. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Whoa.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Mhm.
Great. So Christina already described the property, where it's located. I believe everyone is fairly familiar given our presentations in front of the board before.
I can't really.
So I'll just jump right into our improvements at Broadway. So this is what we're calling our demo plan, showing what we're taking away from the property. The removal of 5 date palms at the entrance, at the main hotel entrance, and the remaining 2 of the 5 at the corner of Broadway and Leveroni. We're removing the monument signs at both the corner of Broadway and Leveroni and the main vehicle entrance at the hotel entrance. We're also removing a bit of pavement and planting at the southeast corner of the building, where we're going to extend some of the curb and put more planting in just to make a nicer, more vegetated path around the property. This sheet, we can also see the removal of the fire pit at the pool. It's an existing fountain, and we presented the design in December, but we found that we really need to demolish the whole fountain in order to get the gas line in and turn it into a fire feature. So we just wanted to show the design review board the extent of the work we're proposing in that area, since it has increased. Lastly, in this view, we're removing a hedge at the south end of the main launch building that's hatched under my cursor right here. So here we have what is our proposed plan along Broadway. We're showing 10 new coastal oaks to replace the 5 removed date palms, 2 of which will be in our increased planting curb at the southeast corner of the building. We're showing the new monument signs at the vehicle entrance and at Broadway and Leveroni, along with some spaced out tree uplighting that you can see with these small triangle symbols at the trees along Broadway, and then some wall washing building lights along this path here. It's not really to provide very much lighting, it's just to give a nice glow to the property. And we've provided the photometric analysis to show that we don't have any light spillage onto outside of the property line. So here, this is just a reference sheet showing our cottages. We're not really removing anything from the cottage area. It's mostly additive changes. So here we have our additive plan. The biggest items are the pergolas at the tubs, of which we have 9, and you can see that they live next to these color-coded portions of the cottages. Then the other improvements we're adding to the property is additional lighting on the trellis at the pool we had approved in December, some lighting at the oak trees along the south cottage pathway, and some lighting and wayfinding signage to allow people to navigate around the cottages to get from the spa building to the pool and to their rooms. So here's a close-up of the trellis. So the tubs, if you remember, were approved in December. And after some back and forth, trying to figure out a way to avoid stormwater getting into the sewer system, we found that the county really just needs us to put a fixed roof over these tubs. And we thought the best way to do so would be to mimic the trellises that we've added to the property elsewhere, with fixed panels of some high-grade plastic or glass to allow the water to drain off to the side and not get into the tubs themselves. So I believe that they're just over 8.5 feet tall. They had to be a bit tall in order to get people in and out of the tub well. But as you could see from the main cottage plan, a lot of these trellis features are going to be very interior on the property and shouldn't be visible to people from the public realm. So here we have our fixtures that we're proposing for the lighting of the property. Top left is the generic oak uplighting to light up some of the trees. Bottom left, we have new post covers for the existing pathway lighting. We're providing 2 options for the design review to review. We're pleased with either. And then at the bottom right, we have basket lights for the pergola.
Pretty.
Okay, now moving on to some of the signage that we're proposing for the property. So there will be a new hotel entrance sign, since the existing hotel entrance sign is on the fabric canopy that back in December we proposed to remove. So we're hanging the new signage from the trellis that we presented in December, and we're providing some lighting for that signage that's going to be nested behind the existing trellis members. So it should be a nice low profile light that will only illuminate the sign. And here's some color renderings of that signage. So the second monument sign that or the first monument sign, not the building sign, that we're going to be improving is the monument sign at the corner, or sorry, not at the corner, at the vehicle entrance along Broadway. You can see the bottom left, the existing signage. That will be removed, and new gold or gold looking lettering will be applied to the existing low stone wall in that area of the property. We're also proposing 5 of the lighting fixtures in the top left-hand corner to illuminate that signage so it's visible for drivers to get to the property. Then at the corner of Broadway and Leveroni, we're also proposing a new monument sign. You can see in the bottom left the existing fixture that we propose to remove and the new feature we are proposing. The finish will be the same building paint as the building paint that we'll go over momentarily. I believe it should be a white dove finish. And we're proposing 2 light fixtures at the base of this sign. The last component of the signage that we're proposing at the property is the wayfinding. So it will be a series of pillars. Some will have no lighting. I believe that our cottage plan details the exact numbers. It should be 16 without any lighting. Some with lighting on one face, some with lighting on 2 faces either side, and some with 4-sided lighting at key intersections so that people can read the sign at night. And the paint palette for these will mimic that we're proposing on the rest of the property. The white dove and the Iron Mountain. So lastly is the revised fire pit design. You can see the bottom right-hand corner, the existing fountain feature, and the top right-hand corner, the design that was proposed back in December. But like we said, we realized we were having difficulty getting the gas line into this fire feature, and we needed some different clearances to comply with brand standards, certain heights that we need to have the flame above the ground for safety. So you can see the cast in place concrete fire feature that we're proposing instead. And then I believe we're at the building paint palette, which I think Mark would like to speak about. Maybe. Okay, well, he can jump in and.
Yeah, I just got unmuted, Sarah.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for all the explanation. So what we've done for the building color is kind of really simplified and taken it away from kind of the fake Tuscany look. We've gone back to really kind of what we think was the genesis for this project originally, which was a offtake on the Sonoma barracks and other barracks in the region. A very simple kind of white plaster scheme with a dark trim work, and we slightly modernized it. Instead of going to a brown or a natural wood, we've done an Iron Mountain, which is kind of a really rich, kind of warm toned gray in relationship to the white, which mimics the plaster. That's just kind of an update of that again, the existing or the Sonoma Barracks on the plaza. And as far as the cottage entry, which is the next slide, currently it's really devoid of any kind of architectural character. It's not consistent with how you would do kind of a structure in plaster for a doorway or opening. And so it's really kind of simple. We've just taken the doorway and added a header piece above it to really define the entry. Again, kind of unifying the paint scheme with the Iron Mountain, and also taking a kind of a very bland entry patio that's concrete and staining it to a much richer tone.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And then at the end of our presentation, we have a bit more detail on the landscaping. Do you guys know if Bob Dugan has been able to join the Zoom call? Wendy?
I don't see.
If he hasn't, I can take a shot at the landscape, although I'm nowhere near as knowledgeable as Bob on that.
I'm taking a look here. His name's Bob.
Yep.
I don't see anyone named Bob, and I don't see anyone raising their hand.
All right, so in one sense, this is really easy scope because this was approved a year or two ago previously by this group body, and the approval expired before the work was completed. So this is bringing that back, and this is really about pulling out the non-native planting, putting in the coastal oaks, upgrading kind of the Broadway front with much more native planting. I believe there's lower water planting in that. But again, a lot of this scope, or the majority of it, had already been approved and had just been expired.
Yeah, I think Mark did a great job of covering it. In my discussions with Bob Dugan about the scope, he's mentioned that there's just a focus on evergreen plants just to make the property look more lush year round, while using, like Mark said, low water use native plants. And that design principle is consistent with some new shrubbery in the cottages, as we have on this slide. And that should pretty much cover it.
Great. Are there questions to the applicant from the commission?
I have a question. Looking at the monument sign that's on the corner, I guess it'd be Leveroni and Broadway. I'll go back to my paper. The sign calls out, it's 6 feet tall by 5 feet wide. Is it, how far back is it set from the corner? Is there any potential it's going to block traffic view? Because in your rendering or the Photoshop version of it's not to scale, but then they show another scale with a human standing next to it. It's much larger. I'm just wondering, is there any, how far back is the corner is a consideration?
That's a good point. I don't think that I have any specific information as to exactly where we're locating it. I don't think I've done that math. But we would be happy when we permit that sign application to do sight lines of the drivers to make sure that it's not going to impact any visibility.
And also it's more or less in the existing location, and I believe it's about the same scale or possibly a little bit smaller. You can see from the existing sign, this is when there was an attempt to have multiple retail in the building, which failed for many reasons. So we're not trying to accomplish as much on this sign as this original sign.
Okay.
It's been a while since I wrote the staff report, but my memory is that there is a condition of approval that speaks to this issue and limits the size, that the overall size exceeds the what is allowed. And I would also support adding language that the final location would require approval of the Department of Public Works.
Perfect, thank you.
Great. Any other commissioners have questions for the applicant?
Through the chair, on the beginning of the presentation, they talked about option 1 and option 2 of the lighting, and I must have missed it in my packet.
I think that's a late addition.
Okay. Can you elaborate, since we don't have the sample, can you elaborate the difference between the two lights? Is one illuminate more than another, or what are the pros and cons of the two lights?
Sarah, I can take this. Stylistically, they're very similar. Part of the reason for this style was, if you can pull back the memory from your mind, we, in a previous application, got approval for 4 gas lanterns at the entry trellis. Both of these stylistically are very similar. We were just trying to keep our options open and figure out which one made the most sense. Our goal was to actually get a sample fixture of both of these to see how they function on the property. Currently, the existing light, as shown, has a very small lumen outlet and isn't functioning properly as far as safety on the pathway. The two options have a higher lumen outlet than the existing, still very low. And so we were hoping to basically get a sample of both and see which we think works the best with the property and provides the safety that we really need for this passageway.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for the applicants? Okay.
Question. I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but there isn't a rendering of the entrance with the new coastal oaks. I assume there's not. Is that correct?
You know, we actually, in one of the previous ones with the fountain and the fire feature at the entry, we did have coastal oaks on it. It is not part of this package.
Okay.
But it's basically, it was pulling out the date palms and replacing it with the oaks in the same locations.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioners want to ask questions for the applicant? Okay. Are there any comments from the public regarding this agenda item?
Let me check, just one moment.
Sure.
There are no written comments and no one has raised their hand, so no public comment.
Perfect. Okay, this time we'll close the public portion of the meeting for this agenda item and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Tipple.
I got that loud noise. You can hear that. Okay, guys. I really like the design. I'll just kind of go by it one by one. With the entry signage, I like that you're raising the height on that. I think that looks very nice. Love the new logo and the simplicity of it and the olive branch. As far as the lighting goes, with the lights with the option 1 and option 2, I guess I would prefer option 2 with the not the fake kind of frosted in the light of option 1. So I prefer option 2. The color palette is fine. I mean, obviously Italianate looks so dated now, and you can really tell that. So I think the new color palette will be much more contemporary until color theory or trends change again. And I'm amazed just how the new shutters and just the header and the stain on that door just makes the architecture pop. It's so simple. And yeah, it looks so much better. And as far as the landscaping goes and adding evergreens, that's always a good thing, and native planting. So overall, I think you have a very nice package, and I'm going to be really interested to see how it's going to look with those valley oaks. I think it'll look a lot different. Yeah, I think it's a great package. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Randolph.
She's muted.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Chair Johnson. Yes, this package, it's so fun to see this this space really be rejuvenated and actually brought into more of a look that goes with Sonoma. And as Commissioner Tipple said, it seems like your choices were very simple, but a lot of times simple is the best, right? So the door header's beautiful. The color just completely changes the whole thing. And then when those poor little date palms are replaced, I remember they struggled at the beginning when those were first put in. And so replacing those with the oaks, I think is going to be a dramatic difference. Plus, it's, you know, you're right on Broadway, so the gateway to Sonoma City. It's just going to be, I think, a great addition to town. So thank you for the great package, great presentation, and all of your thoughtful creativity.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Burt.
I think it's a wonderful presentation. I feel like you're bringing the mission back. And as she says, it's a wonderful way, an introduction into town. I love the fact that you're bringing the oaks back. I'm curious, what are you guys going to do with the palms? I'm sure they're going to go somewhere else. They are beautiful, but it just the fact that you're bringing everything back that should be there, should have been done in the beginning when this was built. I love the colors that you chose. I agree in regards to option 2 as the lighting, as the choice for that. And I think it's a lovely package, so I'm very excited. So, great job.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke. Vice Chair Cormany.
You know, I like to say that when I first saw the call outs on this, there's so many items on here, the lighting, landscape, waiver, colors, all that. But there's a couple of properties here in town that every time they come in front of us in design review, I go, this is going to be pretty simple because the people who are responsible seem to be doing a really good job, this being one of them. And we have another one this evening that kind of falls in that category. So I think that the choices you've made are really nice. I was kind of intrigued by having to put the roof over the bathtub, something I hadn't even considered, but once it was mentioned, made a lot of sense. And I've been watching for the palm trees to come out for a long time now, because we talked about that, what, a year ago? So I think overall it's a nice presentation. It's going to be a nice upgrade, and it's nice to see the improvements. Overall, I think nicely done. Good job.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cormany. Yeah, I concur with all the commissioners. I really like this project, and it's been nice to see this develop. I'm glad the color changes are really wonderful, and again, the simplistic changes that you're making are making a huge difference. So I'm in favor of the project. I like it. Having said that, if there are no other comments, would someone on the commission please make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the proposal as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a
I'll
second.
second.
Terrific. Wendy?
Are there any additional
Any other
comments?
comments? Oh, do we feel that we need to put in a condition on sightlines for that sign, or is everybody satisfied with the explanation of the sign being a little bit smaller, perhaps?
I think Christina Tierney said she suggested an additional motion or additional condition that the sign be subject to review by the Public Works Director.
Yeah, especially since if the location's in flux, I would recommend that.
Okay, let me
Okay.
try this again. I propose a motion to accept as proposed with the exception of being subject to review by the Public Works Commission on the sign on the corner of Lavroni and Broadway.
Second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, Wendy?
All right, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Burt,
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany,
Aye.
Commissioner Randolph,
Aye.
Commissioner Tipple,
Aye.
Chair Johnson.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
terrific. Okay,
Thank
so
y'all.
moving on to the next agenda item, I believe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck. I
Thank you.
believe Commissioner Cormany is recusing.
Mhm. Yes, I have to recuse because I have an office space on 918 First Street, so it's proximity.
Okay, so Commissioner Amar will now be on the dais with us. All right, so agenda item 3.4 is discussion and possible action to recommend to the Planning Commission to approve a design review application to remodel and expand the existing spa and fitness building, and also remove and replace current swimming pool, landscape, and deck areas with a new pool and outdoor deck at MacArthur Place Hotel, 29 East MacArthur Street. Christina, could we have the staff report, please?
Absolutely. Just adding the applicant in. All right. Michael and Joe, are you in?
Hi, it's Joe Walsh. I'm in.
Perfect. And it looks like Michael's in as well. All right, so before the commission for consideration is basically just a slight expansion of what was previously approved in 2018. The use permit in 2018 approved a slight expansion of the spa. And during the design process, it is looking like additional square footage is needed. The use permit that the hotel is operating under was approved on March 8, 2018, and that included the demolition of the existing 2,800 square foot spa and the construction of an approximately 4,000 square foot spa building with a second floor sun deck. So that was approved in 2018. And before the commission tonight is a very similar proposal to remodel and expand the spa building and to replace the existing pool, landscaping, and deck areas with a new pool and outdoor deck. The number of treatment rooms at the spa would remain the same. The new square footage would support new exercise rooms, water treatment, and exercise facilities. The proposed renovation would include 3,889 square feet, and as well as some unoccupied space as well. And it includes the removal of the entire single-story wing to allow for a two-story replacement. And Michael always has very detailed pictures and presentations, so I'm gonna let him take the lead on that. But here's some existing pictures of the spa and the pool at the facility right now. And the design review findings for approval are before you on the screen. And essentially, the proposed changes require a use permit amendment. So the commission will be making a recommendation to the Planning Commission on the project. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none. Michael, are you ready? Joe, I don't know, not sure who wants to go first.
I could pinch hit. Michael, are you there? Well, I'll pinch it.
Hold on, I think he might have gotten bumped off.
No worries. Are we going to go through the slideshow that he had, the PowerPoint show?
Hold on, I just saw Michael Ross. Here we go. Michael, can you see and hear us?
Michael, you're there. You're on mute. Now you're off mute. I see him.
I can't hear you, Michael. But there's Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hi, hello.
Doesn't look like he's muted.
Hey guys, this is Mike Marino. I think you sent the mute to the wrong person.
No, he's not muted, but thank you, Mike. He's gonna call in.
Okay. Christina, if you want to start his presentation, I could ad lib until he joins us.
A different Michael Ross is unmuted.
Isn't this fun?
I'm gonna look into this.
I love everyone's house, by the way. You have lovely homes.
I can't believe I haven't had any kids run by yet, only once.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the dog to start barking.
Well, the dog has been growling by my feet, so it was the dog, not my stomach. Wendy, I think Michael needs to be unmuted.
Yes, I just clicked the button to unmute him.
Michael, are you still? Michael, you want to try calling my phone? I can put you on speaker. Michael, I just sent you my cell phone in case you want to call. I can put you on speaker. Want me to give the presentation? Here's the existing site plan. Michael, do you want me to walk through? I don't know that he can hear.
Maybe not. Christina, I can help if you want to do it together.
Okay. Do you want me to walk through, Joe?
Sure, I can add any questions.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So here's where the spa building would be, right kind of in the center of the project site. This shows where the existing building is in the green area. Not the same without Michael giving the presentation. Here's the site plan.
Maybe am I audible right now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so this is Joe Walsh. And Michael's probably running trying to get on.
Michael, is that you?
We came before the.
I think there's too much feedback.
Yeah, we'll be fine, Michael.
Okay.
So we came before the Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission about 2 years ago. And at that time, we had 19 of the 20 buildings designed and we hadn't gotten to the spa. And it's sort of a good thing that we waited a while because we've learned a lot operating the hotel and what was needed. So we're coming back now. We held off on this as the final part of the original planned renovation. And then it did give us time to learn what was required. So pretty much the same spa, the same number of treatment rooms, the same uses, but we've learned that to meet the standards of the market that we had to have larger size of locker rooms, larger size exercise facility, more pool deck surface. So I think Michael and George Gervin, our landscape architect, and the teams have done a very good job of laying this out. Maybe the next slide, Christina. So early on, the concept that we came before you with, and then we explained that we would come back at a later date, really is very similar. We though have decided that the 1950s pool had pretty much lived its life. So our landscape architect wisely came with a plan to rotate the pool. It's a new pool replacing the pool that's lived a nice life. And going on a north-south access, so that would work best from those that wish to sit out by the pool and sunbathe. And then the floor plan is very similar, but in the review, we brought in a good spa consultant, T. Lee Spas, who's done a lot of international, national spas, as well as spas in the valley. And they've given us some good feedback of what the customers are looking for. And we've gotten some very good feedback from our existing customers. Maybe the next slide. Again, I think this is are we probably still into the early concept? And in the early concept, we had.
Sorry, Joe.
Oh, no worries. Are we still in the early concept? That looks like the early concept. Yeah, so the early concept, we're really proposing something similar. It's just we've learned that we need a little more in the square footage. And then we've made some tweaks to the exterior design, some for the solar gain in the treatment rooms, and some to be a little more MacArthur Place-esque. So we're picking up some of the gables, the cupolas that are in the existing design, the hexagons in the gables, but pretty much making this building very much similar to what was done, what Michael and the team came up with design in the Barn and Knowledge Center for the Coach House. Next slide. For those that remember the property, in looking at the left side of the slide, the part that's hashed out, that's the existing building that was built in 1950, circa 1950. We had a historic resource evaluation done. There's no historic value to that building. And originally thought we might be able to renovate the building, but it just has problems with ceiling height and such. So that part of the building is going to be replaced. And
Joe, can you hear me?
oh, he's here.
Hi.
Was it killing me doing your presentation?
No. I apologize for that. That's never happened before, a computer glitch.
It's all yours, Michael. I hand over the
and you're doing a great job. Hi, everybody. It's really a pleasure to see you. I'm glad you are all well, and we're happy to be here. Can we go back to the beginning? I'd like to. Am I controlling it? This is your slide presentation, not mine. That's right. So
this is on my screen, Michael.
okay, so let's just go that way, Christina. So let's go to the next slide.
If you want to share your screen, we can do that.
It's easier right now, just what you're doing.
Okay.
Basically, this is 20 buildings have basically been touched. Building L, the spa building, really has been reserved to be one of the final projects on the property, and that's what is the subject of this design review today. The next slide. This slide begins to show our overall thinking urbanistically about the project, that there's an existing two-story building that next to it has been married the 1949 heavily renovated single-story wing and a new exercise room. And you can see the greensward around it, which represents some of the last area that can be expanded on this campus. Next slide. And the idea is to create an L-shaped building that embraces outdoor space. And I love L-shaped buildings for all the power that they bring to the exterior areas. And we have some wonderful precedents here in Sonoma. Next slide. And you know those. Some of the best L-shaped buildings around are right on our plaza. That includes the historic Mission, which is in the lower left-hand side, and right across the street, the barracks. And these spaces are basically town squares unto themselves, small town squares that are defensible spaces, provide privacy and green. And of course, it's part of the tradition of plazas and courtyards that are make our town so livable. So our design proposal is the next slide, which is basically going the other direction. There we go, is creating an L-shaped building that embraces and frames an outdoor social area, which is the new pool deck outdoor seating areas, cabanas, and it's within a enclosed garden courtyard theme. So this is really an L-shaped building framing a garden courtyard, and that's the subject of the design review proposal before you. The specific landscape design will be presented to you under a separate application, but what you see in front of you basically describes our design ambitions for the exterior, which is just wonderful outdoor gathering spaces, small social groupings, and a lot of green. So next slide. To Joe's point, we came before you before and showed a concept in early 2018, not unlike what we're seeing today. Next slide. It was basically an L-shaped scheme with the portal that brought you out to the swimming pool. But then the pool was going to be oriented east-west, and with the great work of Gervin Associates, we've decided to reorient that, which was presented. The pool's now going north-south. Next slide. This is the existing building. What's interesting about it is the two-story building, which is around 1/3 of the space that you see in the left-hand side of this is going to be preserved, and all the rest of it is going to be demolished. And the next two slides are the floor plans, the first floor plan and the second floor plan. And importantly, from a use permit standpoint, is we're basically duplicating all the spaces that exist in the building right now, but correctly sizing them. They were undersized. They really didn't meet the brand or the quality of service that we wanted to provide the guests. And so it was 7 treatment rooms before, it's 7 treatment rooms now. There were relaxation areas before. There's a relaxation room slightly larger now. There was a gym. The gym is going to be upsized. And so basically it's correctly sizing for the brand and the property and creating a better garden setting. The exteriors are presented in the next slide, which basically mimics the following 3 slides. The look and feel of the building that you see in that elevation sheet are like these 3 elements that have already been built on site. And the next renderings that you see are experiential renderings of what this new spa building will look like. This is the spa entry. It has a portal that you walk through, and that's the spa reception. You can see the doorway there. There is sort of a tower element with a cupola on the top that is sort of a softly glowing lantern that we imagine it along the main thoroughfare, which is called the Curvy Path. There's an outdoor sun deck with a retractable fabric sunscreen above. That's the dark framework that you see towards the right. Next slide. This is a view looking the other direction towards the west, coming from the barn. You can see the sun deck above, the entry to the gym, the entry to the pool. It harkens back to the main barn entry with simple shed roofs that form a protective cover over the doorways with corrugated metal roofing. Next slide. This is a view from the sun deck towards the pool area. It's really nicely scaled. All of the elements of the buildings are of the same scale, size, massing, materials, color, windows as the rest of the campus. This is very important to MacArthur Place, to have it really be a good neighbor to all of the other citizen buildings on the site. Next slide. This is a view looking southwest from a cabana across this garden courtyard. And then the final slide, which is looking from the spa building towards the northeast. And you can see that the building is really familiar with everything that is on the campus. And I think it'll be a good neighbor, not only to the campus itself, but the town. So I apologize for the glitches with the Zoom presentation on this end, but Joe and I are available to answer any questions should you have them.
Terrific. Thanks, Michael and Joe. Are there any questions from the commission for the applicants? No? Okay, are there any comments from the public regarding this agenda item? Wendy, you're muted.
Yeah.
There are no written comments, and I see no attendees with their hands raised, so there's no public comment.
Terrific. Okay, seeing there are no more comments from the public, we'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commissioners for discussion. Commissioner Tipple.
Well, I think it's a beautiful design. It's just
Emery.
nice to see this come to fruition.
We're reviewing our design right now.
Can you hear me? Okay. And I think the spa building was the last piece. The pool, yeah, so small. It just didn't look like it fit with what you're doing. So I'm just really excited to see what it's going to look like. And I think it's very fresh. It's modern, but it still kind of has that historical feel to it. And and even though the pool's a little bit larger, I think having it, it still looks small to me. It doesn't look too overgrown for the area. And I kind of like the whole little secret garden feel to it. So I'm very excited to see how it's all going to turn out. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Tipple. Commissioner Randolph.
She's muted.
So once again, I just want to thank you guys. Every time you bring something in front of us, we're excited. Your thoughtfulness, your sensitivity to this project has just been an example for all of us. And so, yes, seeing this last piece, it's so exciting. And you guys think through every single detail. And your language is always amazing too. Michael, you're always saying that you want to be good neighbors to Sonoma. And it's very, very clear that drives your whole vision of what you're doing. And I obviously feel pretty positive about this application. And I'm just very excited to see it moving forward.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Burt.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm glad that you waited to do this as the last phase. And I'm glad that there was so much thought put into it and that you even ended up making more adjustments with the consultation you had as far as what the client needs and services and all that. And I love the explanation of the L-shaped building. That is just wonderful. We have been, I know that I have, and some of my friends have already enjoyed the hotel, walking down to have a cup of coffee and just strolling around the whole place. And it's already been such a gift for our residents and how neighborly you have been to the residents here in Sonoma. So it's really been a gift to us and we have enjoyed it. So I do thank you for that. And I really look forward to this going through the next phase and so everyone can enjoy it even more. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Burt. Commissioner Amar.
Yes, hello. I love this project. It's just very consistent with everything else you've done. I really love the architectural details on the spa building, and I like that it's going to be bigger because it was very small and kind of cramped before. I love that you're very thoughtful with trees and saving trees or replacing the ones that you take out and repositioning them. But I could see that there was a lot of care involved in that process. I'm very happy to see a new pool in general. That one's looking very tired out. And most of all, I think it's just a lovely concept with creating the plaza within the MacArthur Place. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Marr. Yeah, I agree with, once again, my fellow commissioners, and just to echo Vice Chair Cormany in the last agenda item, there's certain projects that get brought up before us in presentations, and it's always comforting and reassuring when we have those specific ones come, because they're going to do what they say they're doing, and they've taken great thought in their project workings. And again, your space looks beautiful. It flows really nicely. It's a wonderful, the addition to what you already have for sure. And again, it's totally enjoyed by not only the guests that you have, but many of us in town that come over to spend time there for coffee or dinner, or when the power goes out to charge our phones. So I really enjoyed your presentation, and I think it's a great project.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more comments from the commission? And if not, would someone care to craft the motion for this, for the Planning Commission?
Through the chair, I'll go ahead and make an attempt here. So the motion to go ahead and recommend to move this further to the Planning Commission for them to review the design application submitted this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Terrific. Okay, Wendy, if there's no other comments, will you start the roll call?
All right, I'll do the roll call vote. Commissioner Burt.
Aye.
Commissioner Randolph.
Aye.
Commissioner Tipple.
Aye.
Commissioner Amar.
Aye.
And Chair Johnson.
Absolutely.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on down to item 3.5 on our agenda. This is a discussion and consideration of a design review application for outdoor lighting for storage facility, Smart Stop Self-Storage, located at 19240 Sonoma Highway. Staff, could we have the report, please?
Yes. By way of background, in April of 1984, the Planning Commission approved a use permit for a storage facility. In May of 2017, the city received a complaint about new outdoor lighting on the subject property, and we forwarded that to the code enforcement officer. As a result of the code enforcement action, a design review application was submitted, and in 2018, the Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission approved an application for outdoor lighting on the property. This approval expired, and a new application was submitted in July of last year for outdoor lighting, and this application was deemed complete in February of this year. The proposal is to replace 19 of the existing 42 exterior light fixtures. The remaining 9 light fixtures will be removed. A shroud will be added to the LED wall backs that face the residential neighbors to prevent light spill off from the subject property. And the proposed illumination is from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which is consistent with the normal business hours. This is a site plan. The orange is what the applicant proposes to remove, and the green is what will remain, and the green with the circle are going to be removed. Here is a picture of what the light fixtures will look like. With regard to the development code requirements, exterior building modifications for which a building permit is required is subject to design review by this commission. As I mentioned, there was a neighbor complaint. Staff has reviewed the lighting plan and determined that the plan demonstrates the dispersal of light on the ground surface, will eliminate light spillage from the project's boundaries. And in 2018, this commission added a condition that the lights be on a motion sensor at all time. And this has also been included as a condition of approval. And staff's recommending the commission approve the project subject to findings and conditions of approval. And these are the findings of approval, and that concludes staff's report.
Great, thank you, Wendy. Just want to check back, is Commissioner Cormany here still?
Yeah, let me get him back.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
And I'm going to promote the applicant now.
Okay, are there any questions for staff from the commission?
I have a question. There was some reference in here. We did mention motion sensors, and then there's in the proposal, they're claiming they're not required because of Title 24 Code 2016. So I think we should be careful to address that to make sure it's a bit inconsistent with the staff report versus the proposal from the electrician.
Can you hear me now?
Is this Kimberly?
This is Kimberly from Bolt Electric.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi. Yeah, there was two things that I noted in there. One of the, in my narrative, it actually said that we would not be using motion sensors due to the height and the wattage of the fixtures being proposed. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm unsure as to why that ended up in the agenda, that would actually be part of the conditions, because I'm asking to have that removed. I can't hear Wendy.
Staff included that condition because it was a condition that was included in 2018, but it's up to the commission as to whether or not they'd like to include it.
Right, and these fixtures are a different fixture than what was proposed previously. And so they, the existing fixtures that are there right now are 42.5 watt fixtures, but we'll be replacing those with a 30 watt fixture. And so in accordance to the outdoor lighting controls and equipment per section 130.2, there's an exception to that in exception 3. And that says that we're, non-pole mounted luminaires with a maximum rated wattage of 30 watts each would be excluded from that condition.
It would not be a building permit requirement, but this commission could include it if they felt it was necessary, but they'll talk amongst themselves and make that decision.
Okay, and one other thing that was on there was that when you did the key to detail the fixtures as to what was going on there, that was incorrect. So I don't know if you want to go back to that and I could describe what's actually happening there. Correct, so the green dots are where the existing fixtures are that were replaced back, a few years ago, the 27 fixtures. And the ones the green ones that have a circle are the ones that we're proposing to go ahead and blank them out. And we will just be replacing the other green ones. The yellow dots and the orange dots, those were pre-existing fixtures that are more of a fluorescent fixture and very old fixtures. They were not part of the replacement that took place a couple of years ago.
Okay. Any questions from the commission to the applicant?
I have a couple of questions. I see what you're doing by eliminating the fixtures on this west wall, and that, so you're basically not having light back there for the neighbors is the intent. But I'm concerned that it's going to get dark back there. And another thing I want to point out is that you're referencing 2016 code, and we're in the 2019 building cycle for Title 24. So I don't think it would change, but I would probably behoove you to make sure it complies in 2019, because I know that some of these controls and automation are getting stricter and stricter as the code changes go through.
Well, and that is why we are only replacing 19 of the fixtures, because in that way, we, per the California Energy Commission, will the exception from acceptance testings for projects and with added controls is fewer than 20 luminaires.
Okay. Yeah, I just caution you. I don't know. I mean, I know Title 24 pretty well, but I haven't kept up with 2019 in a while. But I would make sure, for your own behalf, before you go to get a permit, to make sure that it's still compliant in 2019 rather than 2016 code. Because it's a 3-year cycle, and you're off lots changes in Title 24 in 3 years. So it's more of a, I don't have an issue with it. It's just an advisory to maybe do a double check and see if it still complies under 2019 standards. It probably will, but I would just, otherwise you might go get a permit, go down the path and find out that it isn't applicable anymore.
Yeah, but I believe 2019 actually became a little bit more lenient on some stuff, but I did talk with Joe Burrows and stuff at one point.
Okay.
Brought it up to him, so.
No, it's fine.
They just want to look for the most economical approach to get this resolved and be able to have some type of lighting, because right now they're not lighting it at night at all. So there's, you know, pure liability for any of the people that are coming into the structure, into the facility in the evening. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission?
Through the chair, I also share the concern in regards to the rear of the building. All of those lights are being removed, if I understand that correctly. And what will remain, what type of, will that be enough lighting there if you're taking all the lights off that rear wall? If I'm understanding this correctly.
right. And if there becomes an issue in the future, we can always add the lights back in. But for right now, we're removing those because those were the ones that the neighbors were complaining about, that those ended up shining towards them. So.
And then you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, because what about the clients who are going to the storage? It'll be very dark.
If you
and how dark will it be?
If you pull a picture up there, there actually isn't storage units along that section. That's just a driveway area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can't enter any of the tenant spaces in there. It's all down the other path. So that's actually just driveway that you're going down along that pathway.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay. Are there any comments from the public on this matter?
Yes, we do. Let me allow Raul Pena to speak. Raul, you should be able to speak now, and we should hear you.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you for allowing this time. I've been here for 2 hours, and I appreciate what you all do this every time you get together, so thank you for your time. I also listened very closely when I heard you talking about the hotels that are being renovated and the quality of life that they're enhancing for the tourists. I'm here because I'm representing our homeowners association. I'm the vice president of the Sonoma Centro Owners Association. We occupy 2 buildings here on this property. I happen to own the unit at the south end, which is, and I have a panoramic view of the storage facility, which I have a camera I can show you if you'd like. The idea of this, and this is not directed at Bolt at all, because they are a vendor or they're a contractor, but the owners of this facility have repeatedly been non-compliant for a variety of issues. And I have a real concern that their continued behavior is going to manifest itself with this lighting. For example, the thing you mentioned about the motion detectors, that was the only agreement that we had 2 years ago that was acceptable to your predecessors. You all agreed on that board that if they were to do lighting at night or during the darker periods, that they would have motion detectors. Now, to that point, we've never asked them to remove all the lights. We've just asked them to put motion detectors so when someone does go through, that they will have lighting. So their decision to remove so many units, that's their decision, not something to comply with. The second thing is that I wanted to highlight the fact that we've got an area here that is surrounded by residential. We're just one piece of the puzzle. On the other sides of that same map you're looking at, there are homes, many homes surrounding the entire area. If at the time when the lights were on 2 years ago, the light pollution was so bad that you couldn't see the moonlight. And as all of you know, living here in Sonoma and the quality of life that we like here, that was part of the rationale as to why we asked for the lights at night to be turned off. That owner did not turn the lights off until they were actually called for being out of compliance, and they had to turn them off completely. So the reason I'm here tonight, and the reason I wanted to get your attention to this, is that if they're going to do anything to the lighting, just putting the covers to diffuse the light is not sufficient. It needs to be off. And when it's, as long as the safety is a consideration, that's part of it. But there's another issue I want to raise, and this is also documented. They have had problems with people who are homeless who have been living in the storage units. I had to call the police once. I also reported this to the city. They took action. And the reality is that the people who wander around at night down there until they say the hours until 7, they've been staying open until 9:30 at night. You see homeless people, and there's a danger factor not only for people outside of that area, but people who are inside the area. If they're locked in, or if they stay there overnight, there's no bathroom facilities. And sorry to say, I actually saw people doing their business because there was nowhere else to go. So this owner is in question. I truly believe that they're looking for an inexpensive way to get their way, and I would prefer that this be deferred until such time as you have the motion lights included in this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
Well, first of all, I understand his complaints, and I will be happy to try to pass that on to the people that are dealing with this, but I think that's kind of a different issue than what we're trying to achieve here with just getting the lights back up and running. And the thing I wanted to make sure everybody understands is that the fixtures are only going to be operable up until 7 p.m. because that's my understanding is that's the only approved hours of operation for them. So it's going to be on an astronomical timer so that at 7 p.m. the lights won't be able to go on after that. Unfortunately, I wasn't involved in this previously, so I don't know what his complaint was as to what time frame the lights were on, previously that it was creating this, but my proposal is to only allow the lights to be turned on until 7 p.m. because that's the approved hours of operation there.
Okay. Are there any other comments from the public?
No, there's not.
Okay. Does Mr. Pena have anything else to add?
Thank you for what you're doing, and Kim, no reflection on you, but your customer is not to be trusted, to be quite frank.
Commissioner Randolph?
My question just was, I'm responding to the neighbor. So how are people getting into the property? You're commenting that there are people coming into the property and that's a concern. I was just wondering how people are getting into the property after it's closed.
Yes, actually they have a pass key because they're actually living inside the unit that they're renting.
I see.
So this is my question. Yeah, does that mean that there is access to the facility after 7 p.m. if you have a pass key?
around at 9:30 at night.
I'm sorry, we lost your audio. Could you repeat that,
Oh.
please?
Am I muted? Can you hear me?
No, you're okay. It broke
Okay.
up.
Okay. No, what I've noticed is that people are able to get in at 9:30 at night, and the hours have been extended beyond 7 p.m. They usually open in the morning about 6:30. And I've lived here for 5 years, so I've seen this.
So Raul, we can have a conversation offline about the measures you should take when you see that type of activity. I will
Of course.
contact you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant from the commission? Seeing none, and there are no more public comments. We'll close the public hearing. We'll close the public hearing and move back to the commission. Commissioner Burt.
As far as the, when she had mentioned that they were going to be removing the lighting on that back row, and there's no storage units there, then I'm fine with that aspect of it. The only concern that I have, there's still 2 existing lights over on the top, which is facing the residential neighbors on that side, and I didn't see that being circled, so I don't know how that will illuminate into the adjacent property, into their backyards. As far as motion, I'm a little puzzled as far as whether or not that would be necessary, so I'm relying on Commissioner Cormy on his insight in that, as to whether we should add that in. And also concerned about the hours of operation. It's obvious that they have exceeded their time, and what can we do as far as that aspect is concerned, as far as allowing this to, like I said, we're stuck in a hard place, because right now, if we do nothing, these lights stay on, and but at the meantime, they're not complying with hours of operation either. And there's other issues too with code enforcement, in regards to the homeless activity. So there's a lot here that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Commissioner Burt. Vice Chair Cormany.
Yeah, this is a challenging one. It seemed like our proposal for motion sensors addressed a lot of these issues, because unless somebody was there, you wouldn't be illuminating it. So therefore the neighbors wouldn't have the concern. So I'm a bit reluctant to go down the path of approving it. I mean, I understand, but I'm confused as to why that's a significant cost issue. I wouldn't imagine it to be. I know there are some fixtures now that have 2 levels of lighting. So they provide a base level of lighting, and as somebody comes along, they kick up to a brighter illumination. They've just done that. Sasserini has those in their parking lot. So that technology exists. Maybe there's some kind of a compromise like that, where they would have a low level that would provide base illumination, and if somebody came in or drove, it would go up to full illumination. I don't know, but I have some reservations, a little bit of mixed opinions and concerns here. I'm not sure where I stand right now.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Cormany. Commissioner Tipple.
I think what they're proposing with the 30-watt fixture is pretty low wattage for a light. And if they conform to the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. rules, I feel that's fair. So it's really just a fact if they're conforming or not. But I do like what Commissioner Cormany has suggested with the base level lighting, and then maybe, bumping it up when there's activity.
One thing to consider, Leslie, when you're looking at lighting levels with LED, the
Yes.
wattages are about 5 times an incandescent. So a 30-watt LED is about equal to a 150-watt conventional light.
Okay.
So these are relatively bright in comparison.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Tipple. Commissioner Randolph.
Yeah, this is complicated. The application is about one thing, but it sounds like there are multiple other issues that are involved. So I was listening to Commissioner Tipple. You focused on what it is that's in front of us to approve, and we're approving a change in lighting, but I don't think we can address some of the other issues that have been brought up by the attendee, which sounds significant. So something that seems like it would be a pretty straightforward application is a little bit more complicated, as we've noted here. So I might have to go back to Commissioner Cormany for a little bit more about the lighting, because you were saying that the 30 watt really equals 150 in 30 LED equals 150. So I might have to go back there to you and see where your head is right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Randolph. It is. I agree. This is a complicated one when you look at this as a whole. But just focusing on the lights, I personally had been felt very strongly about the lights being on timer to mitigate the excess light when people weren't around. And now we hear there are people around, so they'll be tripping those sensors and the lights will still be on. So there's an issue to address there. But if this property or this business was operating as they say they're operating, the motion sensors would alleviate a lot of the problems that the surrounding folks are having, and I think be a little bit more responsible. So on my end, I'm still hopeful that we can go with a motion sensor for this lighting, if at all. But again, Commissioner Vice Chair Cormany has a little bit more of expertise on this, and I'm certainly open to listening to more of his thought.
And Chair Johnson, I don't know if you're interested, but the applicant is asking to have the public comment portion reopened.
All right, then I will reopen the public forum for the applicant to chime in.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. I mean, the original problem was the neighbors didn't want the lights on. They didn't want them on after the hours. So right now, that's what we're trying to do, is give an astronomical timer and have them shut off at 7 p.m. If his opinion is more that it sounds more like the neighbors are looking to have lights there during the after hours because there's vagrant issues and stuff like that. But that's not what we were told to address. And having the going through the cost of putting a motion sensor, we'd have to put a motion sensor on each light. And in order to do that, that's for the hours of it, from 5 to 7, or like for tonight, the motion lights, it wouldn't even have been used. And the lights wouldn't even came on tonight because they would have been shut off at 7 p.m. So it just doesn't make sense to put that kind of money into it. The only time the motion sensors would work is if you were asking us to keep the lights on until 11 o'clock at night or something like that. And then the motion would turn the lights on at 9:30 when the vagrant comes by. But then again, we'd be in trouble with the neighbors because they're not wanting the lights on after hours. So I'm kind of confused on which we're trying to go here. So
yeah, I can address this. I agree with your solution, because what you're saying is that the lights now are going to be coordinated with the time of the business operation. So there's really no potential for the lights to come on after hours. So if there's people there after hours, that's an issue, but it's not going to be illuminated. And that's not really what we're addressing in this meeting today. We're addressing, can we deal with a lighting situation where it's illuminated during their hours of operation? And fundamentally, what you proposed and eliminating some that might be offensive and only running them through hours of operation, it seems like a reasonable solution to me. It's the added information that puts a little bit of question it, but that's really not what we're here to decide.
Correct, and that's what I'm thinking, that could be addressed later, and then maybe there be some separate lights that are put on that are just motion activated, if that's something that needs to be done. But ideally, what they need is to make sure the vagrants are in there. So, I mean, so making sure they're not there. But right now, currently, there is no lighting being operated in there, so that could be a reason why they are there. So.
Chair Johnson,
Yes,
there's another public comment. Would you like to hear it?
please.
Thank you. You can hear me again?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do agree that that would be a reasonable compromise. However, I emphasize that the owners are allowing people in after those hours. So if we're going to talk about a compromise on the light being on or off at 7 p.m., then I would like to assure that the business is closed at 7 p.m. and no one's allowed in after that. That would be a reasonable alternative to the motion lights, but the hours are really need to be honored.
I agree with you there, but again, that's not something that we can enforce. So I don't know. I mean, we really should just stick to whether or not we approve or not the lighting solution that's been proposed.
Right.
But again, Wendy has suggested maybe reaching out to her and trying to figure out that portion of this in a different forum.
Okay.
So,
May I make a couple of comments, please?
absolutely.
So I'll reach out to Raul about the code enforcement issues with the vagrant and hours of operation and make sure we can have that cease. And then there's a clause in our development code when this commission approves outdoor lighting that you can reconsider it after 60 days if there are complaints.
That's helpful.
Yeah, that is helpful. And we would craft that into a motion, or that's just underlying and.
That's just part of the development code.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Ready to try and make a motion out of this?
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. I propose that we accept the motion as submitted with a couple of conditions. First condition being that there is a revision to make sure it's compliant with 2019 Title 24 codes. And the second condition being that these are only operable, which has been presented during hours of operation. And in that regard, then I'm pretty comfortable with this proposal.
Terrific. Is there a second?
Can I ask a question about your motion?
Sure. I have to make it a little more formal.
Are you removing the requirement for the motion sensor?
Yeah, I can see in this situation, I with both solution, and honestly, if it's 7 to 7, do you need them? I mean, because in the wintertime, you're talking 2 hours, right? 2 hours, maybe that they're going to be operational. And if I'm a homeowner, my concerns are going to be 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, I think it's reasonable for a business to be able to illuminate their facilities until 7 p.m. I don't think that's a stretch. So it's the other compliance issue is complicating that, but I think we have to focus on the task at hand today, which is the solution that the vendor has brought to us applicable to the situation and reasonable? And I would have to say, I believe it is.
Terrific. Okay. So shall Vice Chair Cormier recraft the motion, or did you get that the first time?
Yeah. I suggest that I propose a motion that we accept the plans as submitted, with the caveat that there is an effort to make sure that this solution complies with the 2019 Title 24 building code, because as proposed, it has been presented with the 2016 code, which is outdated. If it's compliant with 2019, I think it would be fine.
Terrific. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Okay, if there are no other comments by the commission, then Wendy, will you proceed with the roll call?
Commissioner Burt.
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany.
Aye.
Commissioner Randolph.
Aye.
Commissioner Tipple.
Aye.
Chair Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, applicant.
Thank you.
All right, so we're now down to item 3.6 on our agenda, which is the discussion and possible action to approve external building modification to a hotel, Sonoma Bungalows, located at 158 West Napa Street. Can we have the report from staff, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Johnson and members of the commission. By way of background, this project has been before you a number of times. Most recently for a sign application earlier in May of last year. At this time, the applicant is proposing to install 2 above ground fire pits. The concrete rectangular fire pits are 2 feet tall and would be located in a common patio surrounded by olive hedges. And this is a diagram of what the fire pits would look like. With regard to development code requirements, exterior building modification for which a building permit is required is subject to design review by this commission, and staff's recommending this commission approve the project subject to findings and conditions of approval.
Terrific. Any questions? I'm sorry.
That concludes staff's report.
Any questions for staff by the commission? Okay, seeing no questions from the commissioners, if the applicant is available, can you raise your hand so staff can bring you into the meeting? And please state your name.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Michael Marino, 500 Michael Drive here in Sonoma, and good to see you, everybody. Pretty straightforward, low profile fire pits, all in accordance. There we go. Am I back?
Yes.
All in accordance with Alan and I kind of designed a system that would be, child-proof and work well with the codes, and super low profile. You actually can't even see it anymore now because the hedges have kind of grown up a little bit around it. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great. Questions from the commission? What are the intended hours of operation for the fire pits?
Right now we can control them with a timer, and we've got them basically shut off at 10 p.m., which kind of coincides with the noise ordinance and everything else. So no later than 10 p.m. And the way that they're actually wired, they're on a timer. So they're only on when somebody wants to turn the timer on to use them. It's a 60-minute or 30-minute timer that automatically shuts off. And then after 10 p.m., it can't turn on at all. So no one will have access to them after the 10 p.m. mark.
Terrific. Any other questions? No? Okay. If there are no other questions for the applicant, are there any questions from the public regarding this agenda item?
Let me check. No comments from the public. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, then we'll close the public forum and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Burt?
I think it'll be a nice addition to the resort, and I'm glad that you've done your research with the fire department. I saw that on your literature, so I have no problem with the application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Randolph?
My unmuted. No problem with the application. Love that property, and it's just getting better and better. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Tipple?
Yeah, I concur with my fellow commissioners. I think this one's a no-brainer, and they're very diminutive, the fire features, and it'll be an excellent contribution.
Great. Vice Chair Cormany?
I concur with what's been previously said. I think you guys have done a great job, and I can't wait to see your full occupancy as we get through all of this and move on.
We're going to need it real soon, no doubt.
Agreed. Okay. Yes, I agree with everything that's been said about the property. It's wonderful and will be a great addition I have to say, I'm sorry that I missed your soft kind of reception. It kind of happened at a weird time.
Yeah, it was
was,
like Sonoma's last big shindig. So we'll have another one here when we all come out of it.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so having all that said, would someone craft a motion?
Through the chair, I make a motion to approve the design review application as submitted.
Is there a second?
A second.
Terrific. Okay, if there are no other comments from the commission or the applicant, Wendy, will you start the roll call?
When did you want me to do it?
You're mute.
You're mute.
I can do it for her. Commissioner Burt.
Aye.
Commissioner Tipple.
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany.
Aye.
Commissioner Randolph.
Aye.
Chair Johnson.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to see you. Okay, moving on now to item 3.7, and Commissioner Randolph will be recusing, I think.
Yeah, I'm recusing. Thank you. I'll go away visually. And
so Commissioner Marr is now on the dais with us. This is a discussion and possible action to approve a demolition permit to allow demolition of a single-family residence and attached garage at 819 Virginia Court. Staff, could we have the report, please?
Wendy, you're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, the applicant is proposing to replace the existing front facade and replace the current configuration of the roof over the front half of the existing building, resulting in an extensive remodel. The property is not located in the historic overlay zone, and that's a correction to the staff report. It's also not listed on the local historic resource survey, the state register, or national register. However, under the development code, demolition of structures over 50 years in age is subject to review and approval by this commission. And here's a site plan of the existing conditions of the property. With regard to development code requirements, for any demolition permit shall be obtained prior to the issuance of a building permit. And these applications are subject to review and approval of this commission. With regard to historical significance, according to the State Office of Historic Preservation, structures over 50 years old may be historically significant, even if they're not listed on a local or state or national register. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, a resource is considered historically significant if the resource meets any one of the following criteria for listing on the California Register of Historical Resources. One is associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of California's history and cultural heritage. Two is associated with the lives of persons important in our past. Three embodies the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, region, or method of construction, or represents the work of an important creative individual, or possesses high artistic values. And four, has yielded or may be likely to yield information important to prehistory or history. Given the age of the building, the applicant commissioned Garavana Architecture to prepare a historic resource evaluation of the property to determine if the residence is historically significant. The evaluation found that the property does not meet the criteria for listing on the California Register of Historic Resources and therefore is not a historic resource as defined under the California Environmental Quality Act. Because the structure is not a historic resource, demolishing it would not have a significant impact on the environment, and the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. The city's regulations for demolition permits rely heavily on the criteria for listing on the California Register of Historic Resources in determining whether a property is historically significant and can be demolished. And this information is reflected in the development code. If this commission determines that the residence does not qualify as a historic resource under the California Environmental Quality Act and can make the findings listed in the staff report, then the demolition may be approved by this commission. If this commission chooses to approve the demolition, this commission may also require that the buildings not be demolished until building permits for the replacement structures have been issued and that the inside and the outside of the residence be photo documented and submitted to the Sonoma League for Historic Preservation and to the city of Sonoma. And staff's recommending the project be approved subject to findings and conditions of approval. And that concludes staff's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Are there any questions for staff from the commission?
Through the chair, I have a question. You were talking about that in order for this to go through, that they would have to submit plans for a replacement on what they plan on building. Can you tell me what the timeline?
No, they won't need to do that, not through this commission, because the project is not located in the historic overlay zone.
So if this demolition permit was approved, how long, or is there a length of time? I don't want something to be sitting there. It's in a highly residential neighborhood and have a house torn down. Is there like a timeline as far as we have to?
There's nothing set in the development code. However, as a condition of approval, this commission can require that the building permits to demolish the structure aren't issued until the building permit is issued for the reconstruction. But it's my understanding the applicant is proposing to submit everything at once, but he can address your comments during the public comment portion.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask staff for some clarity? I was confused by this. Maybe it's because it was late when I was looking at this. It's demolition of the facade and the roof line, or demolition of the entire building?
It's an extensive remodel, so the applicant is only proposing to demolish the front facade, and let's see. They're going to replace the front facade and replace the current configuration of the roof over the front half of the existing building. So the entire building will not be demolished.
Okay, thank you for the clarity, because that was not clear to me. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff from the commission? Okay, seeing none, then if the applicant is here, could they make themselves known so staff can bring them into the meeting?
Good evening.
Please state your name for the rest.
Certainly. My name is Ian Bevilacqua, and I'm with ODADA. Thank you, Wendy, for that overview of the project, and thank you, commissioners, for reviewing our project for us. On the call with me are some colleagues, some project colleagues. We have Tony Sanchez Correa, who's a project manager, and we also have Michael Garavaglia from Garavaglia Architecture, who prepared the historic resource evaluation.
Okay.
Good evening.
You want to go ahead and start and tell us about the...
Certainly. So this is the existing property right here at 819 Virginia Court. And as Wendy explained, it's in the Central East planning area of the city of Sonoma, and it is not in a historic overlay zone. these are pictures of the facades of the house and a corresponding two-dimensional drawing, just illustrating what the existing conditions of the house are. There is a pool in the backyard that will also be removed as part of the alteration to the structure.
Excuse me,
And-
Ian.
Yes.
Excuse me. We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, my apologies. How do I turn on this screen?
At the bottom, there's a green box that says share screen.
Yeah, I've been on these Zooms before and I've seen that before, but I'm not seeing it on my screen right now.
Okay, well, I can show the site plan and a picture
If
of
you
the,
could, that would be great. Yeah, I'm not getting any of those options to, I see, I get a few menu options, but so anyhow, I'll continue. So I have photos that I wanted to share with this.
oh, the only photo I have is the one from the front.
Yeah. Why is it that I'm not able to share my screen? Because there's no option here to share my screen. I have chat, I have raise hand, and I have Q&A, but I don't see any option for sharing my screen.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I'm not able to help you with that.
There's a shared content icon.
Whereabouts, Mike? You see that?
Aren't there a group of icons like stop video, participants, mute?
I have audio settings. And then I have the meeting ID. I have a full screen mode. And I've done Zoom calls before with this computer. So it was very easy to turn on my screen and share that.
The only other option I can think of is if you hover down at the bottom part of your screen. On my computer, when I do that, more options show up.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to email something to my iPad and put it up that way. Bear with me 1 second. Yeah, because I have all these documents queued up on my desktop.
Ian, you were logged in twice, so I promoted
Yeah.
both of you, so maybe.
I have one because I don't have a camera on my desktop, so I have my iPad going, so I have the camera. Yeah, I need to be promoted both. Thank you. There we go. What's going on here? Wendy?
Mm-hmm. What is your question?
For some reason, it's frozen.
Oh,
You know, I can see his secondary applicant, or it comes in and there's no camera microphone showing in the panelist list. So maybe you have to re-log in on your computer.
That's not good. Um,
Should we just move forward?
yeah, I don't know what happened because my computer screen is frozen completely.
So I've got the picture of the front of the house up, and I can switch between that and the site plan if you'd like to continue.
That would be great. Thank you very much. So the existing residence was built in 1956 and it's in the central east planning area of the city of Sonoma. It's not in a historical overlay zone, and we worked with Garavalia Architecture, and they did the historic resource evaluation that arrived at all the conclusions that Wendy had outlined in her initial project presentation to all of you. Are there any specific questions that you have regarding the application?
Commissioners?
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what is your timeline between the demo and what is the status of new plans coming in for the remodel?
Our goal is to submit our building permit application as quickly as possible following this review. I think we're looking at a couple of weeks. We were hoping to begin the demolition process because there is an effort involved in order to do that and remove debris and take the swimming pool out. The owner is anxious to get the project moving and get it completed. So there's no intent here to, do demolition to this residence and then leave it in some state of disrepair for the neighborhood. The owner, this neighborhood and this property is very important to this owner, and they are really wanting to do good things for the neighborhood and the street and be a good neighbor for everybody.
Have the neighbors been contacted? Have you guys spoken? Because it's such a small little area right there. And
Yes.
I know the neighbors are very, it's a, very quaint little street. Has anybody spoken with the neighbors and gotten input from them?
Yes. So in the early part of 2020, we sent letters to the neighbors. The owner and I worked together on crafting letters to introduce the neighbor to the neighbors, but also to introduce the project to the neighbors. And the owner has spoken to one of the neighbors, the other who actually responded and called the cell phone that we provided for the neighbors to call. The other neighbors actually did not respond at all. And with the neighbor with whom we spoke, they were not opposed to the project, the ideas of the project.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the roof lines and the facade, or what the intent is, just to have a better, I mean, I realize that's not what this is about, is demolition, but just curious to what the overall intent is structurally or architecturally.
Certainly. So the proposed ideas for the house are following all of the planning code requirements for construction. We're not doing anything that is asking for a variance or deviating from setbacks or anything like that. We've worked very intimately over the past many months with Wendy, who's been extraordinarily helpful in guiding us through this process. The plan is to reduce the size of the ground floor of the residents because the owner would like a larger backyard. Right now, the backyard is quite small. It's actually not a large lot. And in order to achieve an additional bedroom for the residents that the owner needs for her family, we are adding a second story to the house.
Thank you.
Any other questions for? Are there any comments from the public?
No public comments.
Okay. Seeing there are no comments from the public, we'll close the public forum and bring it back to the commission to discuss. Commissioner Kippel?
It's hard to hear you, Chris. Can you say that again, please?
There are no other comments from the public or commission. We'll close the public forum and we'll move back to the commission. So Commissioner Kippel, do you want to give your thoughts?
Who are you calling on?
Kippel.
Good. Is that me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Got a little muddled there. Okay. So I think this is pretty straightforward. I don't have any real issues with the demolition or the partial demolition, I guess, because it looks like they're just going to be doing the front facade and the roof. So I think it's pretty reasonable, even though it's built in 1956. I don't think there's anything historical about this property. And as long as part of the conditions of approval, I think for the demolition permits to be issued or not to be issued until the building permit of the new structure moves forward. So those are my comments.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Tippel. Commissioner Burt.
I'm very familiar with the floor plan of that house, and it does make sense because of that backyard is really the swimming pool and the layout of the house, and that back room at the very end where the kitchen is takes up so much space. So I do understand that. And the one thing that I have to commend is that after the property transferred, your owner went ahead and made improvements on the house. So this is a good neighbor. This isn't somebody that moved into the house and, and let it sit there. She actually made it look nice, and it is a nice house. But I do understand that she has needs and she has the right to build something that meets her needs. So I have no issue with the demo at all. And I do agree with Commissioner Tippel as far as having plans submitted upon issuance of the demolition permit or pending the demo.
Thank you, Commissioner Burt. Commissioner Amar.
Hello. Let's see. I don't have any issues with the demolition in respect to historical significance. I am a fan of your design firm, so I can't wait to see what happens. I think it'll be an amazing project. And I would suggest that you recontact the neighbors pretty soon before starting demolition, because people are staying at home now, and so they likely might have a little bit of a different input this time around. So that might be advantageous. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Amar. Commissioner Cormany, or Vice Chair Cormany, sorry.
It's fine. I can't remember the last time I heard somebody wanting to increase the backyard by decreasing the size of the house and getting rid of a pool. That's really impressive. And I appreciate your comments and clarity, because it was not really clear to me what the intent was prior to this conversation. And I'm much more comfortable. There's been comfort in knowing what the approach and intent is. It's really been helpful. So I think it's a good idea. It's fine.
All right, thank you. I also agree. I see no issues with the HRE. Obviously, when we have these come up in front of us, if there is an issue, somebody's going to be there to bring it to our attention. So having no complaints from the neighbors and no concerns from some of the other folks in the public that stay involved with the different projects that come through our commission. That's great. It's good to hear that that this property owner is a good neighbor. That's important. I also want to reiterate what Commissioner Marr said about, just maintaining contact with the neighbors, so that that good neighbor policy continues on. And I look forward to seeing, the end result of this new renovation. So those are my thoughts, and I have no issues right now with this proposal. Are there any other comments from the commission on this item? Okay, seeing none, if Wendy, you would take the roll call vote on this item, that'd be great.
First, we need a motion.
Oh, yes, would somebody like to craft the motion for this item?
Everybody speak up at once. I will craft a motion to accept the demolition plan as submitted.
Second?
I second.
Terrific. Okay. Seeing no other comments from the commission, if there aren't, would Wendy take the roll call vote, please?
Want me to do it, Wendy? Commissioner Tipple.
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany.
Aye.
Commissioner Amar.
Aye.
Commissioner Burt.
Aye.
Chair Johnson.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Terrific. Thank you three for coming and waiting through all this. Good luck with the project.
Good luck with your project.
Okay, so we are now down to our last agenda item, item 3.8, which is the review of the City of Sonoma Certified Local Government Annual Report. Staff, would you like to tell us about that?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Johnson, members of the commission. Back in 2014, the City of Sonoma became a certified local government. As such, the city is required to submit an annual report to the Office of Historic Preservation. And typically these reports are due in April, but they gave us an extension due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so what I'd like tonight is I can attempt to answer any questions you have about the report, but if you could please approve it so I can forward it on to the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Are there any comments or questions from the commission members about this report?
Well, like, how are we doing along that pathway? How's our progress?
Well, in the report, it didn't look like we had made too much progress in the last year. And hopefully this next year, we can take on some special projects to enable progress in the certified local government certification.
Does it provide access to grants and funds, or what's the advantage or benefits?
Being a certified local government does give us the opportunity to apply for grants. And we did a couple years ago. Unfortunately, we weren't successful in it. They do offer education opportunities.
Was this related to the train?
Yes.
That was the one we went through with that? Okay. Thank you.
And also, I mean, it brings us into a community of other local governments throughout country, really, that that are paying attention to historic preservation, and so that's why there are requirements for us to follow and make sure that we comply with them. And it's a really positive thing. It just kind of means that you're in the club of people, of communities that really care about preserving their history. So it's a really awesome thing for us to be involved in.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I noted that you had provided the copies of all the meeting minutes, I guess, so they can read to see how proactive we are with some of these applications. Is there some type of an accountability or a mission statement that as a commission that we are supposed to be following, or certain type of requirements that we need to fulfill every year and that can be measured?
There was an application that was submitted in order for us to become a certified local government. And there was actually a pre-application process where the city had to take certain steps. For one example, we had to rename the commission from the Design Review Commission to the Design Review and Historic Preservation Commission. We made some changes to our historic preservation plan. We set goals in the plan every year, and maybe that answered your questions.
Yeah, because I didn't see anything about that in the report, or is there a document that we could, as commissioners, could refer to as far as goal setting and expectations or any type of measurements, so we can compare from one year to another?
I can forward you the city's historic preservation plan. And usually annually, this commission talks about goals. They set goals that they want to work through for the next year. And I don't think we've done that in a while, but we can certainly maybe put that on the next month's agenda and talk about goals to implement the certified local government plan.
Because I recall that we had we prioritized, we made a list.
Yes.
And that was the last that we've done. So it would be nice to get back on track with that.
I'll put that on the agenda for next month's meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, also Wendy, I think it's required that we, do a certain amount of training. Are there any other opportunities that we could move forward with, given the state of affairs now?
Yes, so periodically the state has a number of webinar training that we all attend. I've set some up in the basement of Carnegie Hall in the past. We can't all get together like that now, and we have one membership to review training, so we'll have to think about that. But I will continue to pass on training opportunities to you all.
Is it possible to, if you're going to be watching these, record them in some way so that they could be made available to us and make a library of, like the last one that we had down at Carnegie?
Yeah, let me see if, I know that these trainings are recorded, so let me see if I have the ability to share them with you.
Great. Okay, shall we make a motion to approve and take the vote and get this thing moving?
Sure. I make a motion to approve the annual report that was submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Wendy?
Christina, do you want to do this?
Sure, I'm having fun. Commissioner Burt.
Aye.
Commissioner Tipple.
Aye.
Commissioner Cormany.
Aye.
Commissioner Amar.
Aye.
Commissioner Randolph.
Aye.
Chair Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Okay, last few things. Are there any comments from the commissioners about anything?
I have a comment. So the previous meeting's minutes felt like some of those we'd gone through before. Was that a complete recap at the front end of this, or was some of that duplicate, or was that all original we hadn't seen yet?
Oh, the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they, I don't have a record of you ever reviewing the minutes that were on the agenda.
Wow. Okay. This is some long reading. I read them all, which is crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments?
I just want to thank the staff for, this was an extensive package, and I just want to thank the staff for putting this together. And I know it wasn't easy to put together in your time, so thank you so much. Really appreciate
Guys
it.
for being patient and dealing with months of backup.
It's okay. We're all caught up now. That's the main thing.
We are.
All right. Well, seeing no other, staff comments, announcements, anything coming up?
Sure. So for next agenda, I'll put a discussion about maybe a general overall introduction to the Certified Local Government Program, and we can set some goals for the next year. And I'd like to congratulate you all for making it through the first virtual design review and historic preservation commission. And I'm so sorry about the muting issues, but we'll get it figured out. Maybe it seems like we're probably going to be in this boat for the near future, unfortunately, but thank you for your patience. It's tough sometimes.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, well, given that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It is 9:02, or like old times. Thank you all. It was good to see you. Hopefully I'll see you around town.
Yeah, really. Without a mask?
Yeah, great. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks,